Now it says going live. Going live. You're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And we're doing it again tonight with another Native American myths and legends. We number 35, believe it or not. And with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. Greetings and blessings to all y'all out there. And thank you for coming and listening to this old man and his friend talk about native stuff. And we always, wish you blessings and happiness and all that kind of good stuff. So we hope you're doing well.
Well, yes. And tonight we got another great show for you. I got a great Indian chief from way back when, Powhatan, right? Isn't it Powhatan? I'm never gonna say this right. Powhatan. Yes, way back in the day in 1600s with John Smith, and you wonder why that name may sound Powhatan sounds familiar, is because that was Pocahontas's father. Although he may have had 15 wives, she was definitely his daughter out of one of them. Doesn't that sound funny? Anyway, so somewhere back in Massachusetts, or not Massachusetts, but where was Jamestown? That was Virginia. North Carolina.
Virginia.
Virginia. Yes, Virginia.
I think.
Yes, it was definitely Virginia. I looked it up earlier. Oh gosh. There we go. And I can look it up again, but did you know there's a county there that's named Powhatan?
Yeah. I was looking on the map the other day of northern Indian tribes and stuff from my book, The 500 Nations. And way up on the Canadian border is a little town called Meigs. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Let's do this. We're just gonna go here. Look at that. Powhatan County. It's got its own place. Look at that. Old Powhatan County. There's a county in Virginia. Yes. And there you go, people. Minuteville, I guess that's all you're gonna get. Let's see what it says on Wikipedia. While everybody's coming in, the census taking place, county seat. Powhatan was initially known as Scottsville after Revolutionary War hero General Charles Scott, and historically has been known as Powhatan County Courthouse. And Powhatan Courthouse is named after Chief Powhatan, father of Manakota Pocahontas. These Indians, they always had so many names that we pronounce wrong, and I am definitely king of the mispronunciations. Don't you worry, I will mispronunciate everything you put in front of me. The official court of Powhatan was held at Mosby Tavern, the home of Benjamin Mosley and his son Little Barry Mosby. Powhatan was established as a community in May 1777, but there were several buildings already in existence at the time. One of the locations is Powhatan Plantation, which was built in 1735. The plantation still exists. Shiloh Baptist Church in Powhatan features the mural "The Lord Over Jordan" by Juden Binsford, one of the artist's most famous works. And there you go. Click on a map, and there you go. It's somewhere right in this area here. I think it's this county, but anyway, there you go. Pretty cool. Okay, let's get rid of this and we'll go back to that. And Elderberry's in the house. Jules, Lucky Smith, yeah, and Max Vision. They were all over there. Most everybody's been over at Ryder Lee's, Raised by Giants. checking his show out. He's got a great guest on tonight who's talking about the Palladians and the Galactic Federation and all that good stuff. So, you know, go over there, check his show out, but not until after you watch ours. Because we got a heck of a show coming for you. And while I'm talking about nothingness, I'm sure you're picking out a story. And guess what? I do have the book put up on my screen, so I am not worried.
Ready this time, huh?
Yes, I am ready this time. Ah, yeah, wouldn't you figure? So anyway, we are going to talk about Powhatan. And let's see.
Well, I want to thank y'all for coming, as always.
Absolutely.
And so does Robert. He's just busy.
Yeah, I'm just
running my mouth to.
I'm just
say
doing
hi.
my thing here. I'm getting ready to talk about Powhatan, this great chief. Now I'm sure there was other chiefs before him, but here's a picture of Powhatan in his house, where's the Indians, and he sat above everybody else. Now you notice I'm going to tell you a little story about the chiefs here, you know, so we get the gist of everything. They had these cool houses. They are the more dome-shaped houses. We talked
I know
about
more of what a true longhouse is. You've heard the term longhouse. So that would be a longhouse versus a lodge, which would be a single person.
Yeah, this is definitely a long house. And you see they got the skins laid out to sit on and a fire in the middle. And yes, it's pretty tall. I think we got some. Oh, here's what they look like on the outside. They're pretty cool. They look like big bubbles. I imagine this is woven like reeds or branches or something like that. I was reading, it was something on that order. This is John Smith meeting with the Indians. Now these Indians in Virginia were known for growing corn. You notice the big poles in the back? That's kind of like their fort. Here's another long house. This one isn't quite as well, but they got a little garden going on. They grew tobacco and they grew corn. You know, so it's pretty simple, you know.
And squash.
Yeah, corn, squash. They had a lot of vegetables. Here's what one of the Powhatan guy would have looked like, the chief. You notice these Indians, they wear their feathers on the head like a crown. Every picture I found of these people, they wear feathers on their head like a crown. See, even in this picture here, on the head like a crown. This is a warrior. What I made of it was a Powhatan warrior. Remember, they are real close to the Iroquois. So there you go. So here he is again. He's got his headdress on his head, more like a crown. And so does his subjects too back here. And this is Pocahontas saving John Smith, but apparently not. Powhatan, the Powhatan chiefdom in 1607. Now he was a chief over several tribes. He became ruler. Powhatan was ruler over 30 tribes. He was now a mighty chief and lived in a grand style for an Indian. He had homes in 2 different places. He was pleased to stay in one of them, sometimes in another. And again, he would go on long hunting trips in the forest. A lodge was built there so that he might have a place to rest himself and be comfortable. And he was tired when he was tired. When he traveled, he was attended by 40 or 50 grim warriors who guarded him both by day and by night. So there's all of the people he was over. He had quite the little empire going there, you know. I think I've run out.
Imagine 40 people trudging with you everywhere you went.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, see here's their headdresses. Look at that. And feathers straight up. Now the other Indians we've been studying, their headdresses go down. Here's another one, kind of a rendering of how their longhouse would be with all the people in it. It kind of don't make sense. Nothing's all there in the right spots. Okay, we're gonna go back to here. Remember, they came to Jamestown, or the settlers came with their boats, and right away they built the fort. You know, you don't see the law of nice houses and stuff. The people cut down trees and they made tents and things like that to live in, just like kind of like the Indians. Not much more. Only thing is they had axes and things. It wasn't this kind, you know, when we think of, oh yeah, here's Jamestown, and you're gonna pull up into a port, you got the nice houses with the brick fireplaces and the nice wood buildings and stuff, and you know, it's all modern. This was probably years and years later. This is probably this is probably more what it looked like. Pretty barren. Here, you're to the new world. Look at, we got a half-made fort and some tents to stay in. Good luck with that. You know, here they go. Yeah, see here, trading tools, hoes, axes, saws. What else? You got digging tools, keg of gunpowder, hammers. They've got a bunch of tools here. Yeah, of course, they're carrying their guns, you know, things like that. Now, remember, their ships weren't all that big. What's that do? Their ships were not all that big. Okay, and I came across this. This is kind of neat. Before I get into the story, this is the Powhatan stone. Not all stones are created equal. This clearly true of the Powhatan stone, an average rock that had the incredible good fortune to be part of a royal Indian residence occupied by Powhatan's dad. The stone pedigree has served it well, and for the past 100 years, it's occupied a place of honor on a bluff above James River. Two big bronze plaques is bolted to it and describing its importance. Although the stone itself looks like an oversized potato set on an elevated slab and otherwise empty overlook, the Powhatan stone has a lot of empty space around it. Like a priceless masterpiece in art gallery, we wonder if the pedestal on which it sits is spring loaded, and that the Powhatan stone will someday launch itself over the cliff and into the Fulton Gasworks and railroad yard below, whose construction forced its relocation to its current spot in 1911. That's pretty cool. Kind of like a stone that would have been for like you know, where the king or queen sits. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay. This is more of the. I guess that's all I had on there. But anyway, this is John Smith. This would be the Pilgrims or whatever they are. This was, you know, when they got captured. This is a rendering of like Pocahontas saying, "No, don't kill him, don't kill him." You know, John Smith. Anyway, and here we go again. They had so many of these, like Pocahontas begging. You know, here's the guy, John Smith. A portrait of John Smith. So that's kind of what he probably looked like, I imagine. There's the chiefs. We're in their funky headdresses. We did this is when the Indians would attack the settlers. You know, They would come with clubs. If you notice, these Indians, they don't have metal spears. Now they got these club things. They do have some knives, probably that they got from the settlers. The idea was to, and of course they got their forts burned. The idea was with the white man was to keep the knives, the swords, and the guns away from the Indians. Keep them helpless. I think we've seen all of these. All right. Yep. I think we got them all. Okay, I'm going to stop share. Okay. Anyhow, that was the big thing about those is that they wanted to really keep everything away from the Indians. Now, here's the story and how it goes. And I already read how he had 30 tribes underneath him. He had a fleet of canoes in which he took pride. A great deal of time was spent making these boats. Remember, these are dugouts. They didn't have knives. They had to burn them. They cut a tree down by burning around the tree till it fell down, and they would hollow out the canoe by burning it and the inside and chipping it away. To make a fleet of these would take quite some time and be very valuable. Okay. They used shells, sharp shells, and tomahawks for scraping before the canoe was finished. Powhatan was a very rich even for a chief. His subjects brought in pearls and furs, and besides quantities of corn, game for tribute. They hastened to do his bidding and were afraid of his anger. He had many children, but the dearest of all was his beautiful daughter, Pocahontas, whose story you must have heard already. One of the sons, Natawakuhu Quanas, was a noble, manly fellow, very fond of his young sister, Pocahontas. When Pocahontas had visitors of great importance, he dressed himself in garments of raccoon skins. He painted himself with great care, and then he went and he had placed a crown of feathers on his head, as we've seen. He felt that this was ready to receive his guest. He had an older brother. Let's see. Let's skip over. Okay. Well, and then Powhatan's warriors. Okay, so there were settlers that came. And the red men were glad when their visitors sailed away to the east. But afterwards, a party of pale faces came to live on an island near the shores of Powhatan's kingdom. There were men, women, and children among them. A white baby was born soon after they arrived. The settlers built a fort and some houses in which to live. But after a while, they disappeared. And as you've seen how they built the fort, the ships came, built the fort, blah, blah, blah. Their white friends had come to look for them, but they never found what happened. This was the disappearance of the lost colony. Many think that Powhatan's warriors killed the settlers. Others believe that he put some of them to death and kept the others as prisoners and slaves. Yet he never showed in after times that he knew anything about the lost colony. Oh, that was Roanoke. Remember? Roanoke, the lost colony, as we have called it ever since. After the disappearance of these first settlers, there were many years of quiet and happiness for Powhatan and his people. The great chief hunted in his forest and visited different villages in his kingdom. He went to war very seldom, for nearly all of his country around him was in his power. Then came the dreaded Captain John Smith with a party of Englishmen, and they came to Jamestown. Of course, what are they going to do? We're going to drive the pale faces away. All the Indians spoke bravely. Their bows and arrows were no match for the guns and cannons of the white men. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I'm going to fight with sticks and you're going to have a gun. Don't bring a stick to a gunfight with a cannon. Right? Uh, they tried to make friends with the red men and buy corn and beads and hatchets. They made little journeys into the country about Jamestown, hoping to find gold mines or a way to the South Sea, they thought. And if we cannot find either of these, we may at least learn something of the lost colony. John Smith, their leader, was a wise man. He was very active, and if the other settlers had been like him, they might have got along very well with their new home and made strong friends of the Indians. Of course, there's always a wise man in some of these people. Powhatan kept watch on him and his warriors. The white men could not live here if anything happened to John Smith, and they said amongst themselves that they would leave us free to enjoy our country. If only they might capture John Smith. So the Indians had a plan to capture John Smith. They need no longer fear the thundering cannon and the terrible firearms. They would even dare to attack Jamestown. One day, Smith took a few of his men and they started off on a long trip, longer than usual, and went up the river in a large boat. And after they traveled for some time, they found the river was getting shallow. And Smith, we can't go any farther. They got in a canoe, Smith and a few other guys, and they went up the river some more. Of course, the canoe, they went with 20 miles with the canoe. And of course, with a couple of Indian guides. And they reached when he reached the source of the river, Smith thought, we must have food, and we were very hungry. He left the others in the canoe and started off with a few Indians to find some game. He had not gone far before he was surprised by a band of Indians led by Powhatan's brother. Smith tried hard to save himself, but was made a prisoner of the savages. This is where it's really interesting. This is where Pocahontas came in and saved him, but we'll skip to that part. But we have the great chief of the white men, thought the Indians. Now, while in his hands, away from Jamestown, we will dare to attack the settlement. They proposed that they should help, or he should help them, and he would do so. They would give him a great deal of land and everything they thought he would care for. But their prisoner would not agree to this. Nope, he's not gonna give him all the land, give him whatever he wants so we can get rid of the rest, right? Trickery. Or for
Yep.
them. So anyhow, so he asked them to let him send for certain things in Jamestown. Because they were, anyway, he would make a few remarks or marks on a piece of paper, and the white men would understand what he meant by every mark. They would give the messengers the articles he wished for. See, this is where it gets really like magic. The Indians, remember, had no form of writing, so they didn't know what the marks were. The Indians had never seen writing before, and they were curious to find out if he spoke the truth. So they agreed to send this letter. The runners started off at once. I thought this was so interesting. Great was their surprise when they reached Jamestown, and the white men gave them the very thing Smith had asked for in his writing. It is wonderful, wonderful, they thought. I have to laugh. These white people can talk to each other when they are far apart. How amazing. They could only see us talk on cell phones now. After this, the Indians could not decide what to do with Smith. They hardly dared to kill him, for he was a very wonderful being in their eyes. After they had kept him prisoner for some time, they said, we will take you, the white man, to Powhatan. He will tell us what to do. No doubt. They took him there, and Powhatan, he gave him some trinkets and things, and he pretty much let him go. He didn't know what to, Anyway, so Powhatan let him go. Let's see. Anyway, we're going to skip a little bit here. They wanted to attack. the whites. They were really pissed off at the whites, and they wanted some of those guns, but they were not going to get any of the guns. Anyway, not long after Smith returned to James, somehow or another, Smith got burned. This is farther. Not long after Smith returned to Jamestown, Captain Newport, who had brought the white men to America, returned from England with provisions. Over 100 more people came with him to live in the new settlement. Okay. Smith had told Powhatan that he expected Newport as a certain at certain times, and the ship appeared. And the very time the chief was much astonished. They were amazed. Can you imagine? Well, the ship is going to be here in 2 days, 3 hours, and 15 minutes, because you got a clock. And all of a sudden, the ship shows up in 2 days, 3 hours, and 15 minutes. And they were just like magic. Anyway, this Newport guy, he says, we got to do everything we can to keep Powhatan happy. So he brought some trinkets and things and stuff to trade, tools, things like that. And he wanted to trade for corn. They needed corn. So Powhatan, they met with Powhatan. Powhatan, when he met with Smith, he fairly shouted with joy. He was dressed in his grandest style in immense robes of skins and sat on a bed covered with mats. Along the walls of his house stood 20 of his wives. As I said, Pocahontas, she was just probably one kid out of 20 wives. Their faces were covered with red paint, and their necks were adorned with long chains of beads. There were rows of warriors seated in front of the women. Many other Indians stood side by side at the door, holding wooden plates filled with bread. After the greetings were over and the great feast was spread before Smith and his companions, there were all sorts of good things to eat. They were entertained with dances and songs to the queer Indian music. Yeah, I bet you it was. So anyway, Powhatan wanted to trade with Newport, and because Newport needed corn for the settlers, and he knew the red men had large stores of corn. But Powhatan was clever and said he scorned to trade like common Indians. Captain Newport could spread out what he had brought. This is so cool. Captain Newport could spread out what he brought. The chief would choose what he liked and would pay whatever he thought the articles were worth. Yeah.
Pawn shop.
Yeah, pawn shop. Smith said to his friend, Powhatan is trying to cheat you out of what the goods are worth. But Newport did not believe this. He freely spread the beads, toys, and clothes before the clever chief. Powhatan looked at things over carefully and chose whatever he wished. Then he ordered the pay to be given to the Englishman. What do you think it was? Scarcely 4 bushels of corn. Smith was provoked, yet he knew enough to keep from Powhatan from seeing how he felt. He said to him, now this is where Smith was really wise and smart, and he tricked Powhatan. I will pay the chief back for this way he acted. I will show him some blue beads, and that I have by chance, and I will make him long for the beads, but he shall not have them without paying a very great price. The beads were brought out. When Powhatan noticed them, he thought, how lovely they are. I must have those beads. He told Smith he wanted them, but the captain replied that he did not wish to part with such precious things. And the old, you can't have that. I don't care what you got price. Of course, Powhatan,
money.
That's right. Powhatan wanted them all now, even more. Well, I'd be kind of shaken, like, if I don't give them to him for a good price, there's 50 Indians and I'm only one guy. Then Smith said that they were made of a wonderful substance of the color of the sky itself. Only the greatest kings in the world could wear them. At this, Powhatan thought, I, who am chief of the chiefs, must certainly have those beads. Before Smith would give them to him, Powhatan agreed to part with 200 or 300 bushel of corn in exchange for a small quantity of beads. Talk about selling yourself short. In
Yeah,
this
but
way,
it was market driven.
yes, and it's greed. You know, we're like that too. See, when I read these things, I realize that, you know, we're all greedy like that. It's like you find something and you really want it. What do? I gotta have it. I don't care what it costs. If I have to mortgage the house, I gotta have it. You know, you will, you know, I gotta have a car, but instead you get a Cadillac because I gotta have it. It's beautiful. I gotta have it. But you really should be driving a Toyota. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Let's see. So anyway, so in a way, the clever Englishman paid back the chief for his hard bargain with Newport. So anyway, after that, nobody dared to wear any blue beads in his kingdom. White men had something besides beads for which Powhatan longed. He looked for tomahawks and the stone-tipped arrows of the Indians and said to himself, we cannot conquer the white people. They knew this too. They all said it. Every time I read something about the Indians, they all say the same thing. And it says, we cannot conquer the white people with these weapons. Tomahawks and arrows are no match for muskets and steel swords. Somehow or other, I must get weapons such as the white man uses. Well, and so when Newport decided to leave, Powhatan sent 20 turkeys with a message that they were a token of Powhatan's love for him. So anyway, you know, Powhatan was a pretty good guy, I guess, you know, for the most part. You know, he was just doing his dealing, and they were rich Indians and they had a lot of corn, and the white man needed the food, the corn. Now, if the Indians were smart, they would have just kept all the corn and let the white man starve, and, you know, and they would have left. But instead, they wanted stuff, so they kept trading, and their only defense, they gave it away, and they didn't get anything for it because the Englishmen kept the swords. They didn't give them any guns, nothing. Powhatan did not rest. He gave direction to his warriors to get a hold of the English weapons in any way they could. They were able to take the colonists' firearms away from them whenever they had a chance. The King of England had given orders that the settlers must keep peace with the Indians if it was possible. So that happens where the red men took them by surprise. They were in Jamestown, seized their weapons. They did not fight. They tried to be patient. Somewhere or another, they got some weapons, they got some gunpowder, and they didn't know what to do with it. And eventually, some of them blew themselves up, killed 3 guys, and they were even more frightened then. The people at Jamestown were more on guard than ever. They heard that Powhatan was going to take the town, and he was going to attack. And of course, Powhatan, you know, no, I'm not going to attack. You know the old sly thing. The Captain Newport returned once more from England. He brought a present to the Indian, or he came back in English. He came back to Powhatan, and they expected that the chief would be more friendly than ever after receiving a crown and a grand suit and scarlet clothes from his brother King from the sea, but he was not. Powhatan became very proud. He acted as though the settlers were hardly worth his notice. Now he's playing it smart. He would not allow the subjects to trade with them at all. See, he finally figured it out. If the white man cannot get any corn, they will suffer for lack of food. They will go away and leave me to rule over this country in peace. But Powhatan's greed turned against him. Soon after, he began to wish for a house such as the settlers knew how to build. He also had a great desire to own a cock and a hen so he could raise chickens and have eggs. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? I'm going to trade my kingdom for a couple of chickens so I can have eggs. That's how much a chicken. I didn't realize they didn't have any chickens in the States, in America. There was no chickens.
Huh.
Well, obviously there wasn't. Of course, he had longed for swords and firearms too. How could he get these? He sent word to Jamestown that he would give the settlers a whole shipload of corn if Smith, in return for this, would send him things he wished and also men to build a house. Perhaps he meant what he said, and perhaps not. Let's see. In this very time, John Smith was making a bold plan. He thought, if I lay a trap for Powhatan to make him my prisoner. See, now this is the way they're going to go. They're just going to capture Powhatan and just say, okay, Indians, give us all your corn. Then I can get all the corn from his people. In this way, the only way to save ourselves from starving. So take the king hostage. And boy, didn't they do that with Montezuma? What? And they got nothing. I mean, they got all the gold. Anyway, while he was making this plan, he received Powhatan's message. He was very much pleased and prepared for the trip up the York River and the village of the great chief. He sent some men ahead that might build the house at once. It was a winter and the weather was cold and the ice had formed in many places on the river. It was a hard trip. They pushed through. They couldn't make it all the way. So John Smith was he jumped out and followed 18 other men. They managed to wade through. Can you imagine the middle of winter wading through the water? And they didn't have winter boots like we do. It wasn't rubber boots either. Right. It was probably just moccasins, freezing their asses off. But anyway, along with down the river, through the marsh, with floating cakes of ice, and reached the shore. How cold and wet they were. They went to the nearest hut and asked the Indians to carry word to Powhatan that they had received they were received in need of food. The chief sent the supply of turkeys, venison, plenty of bread. And there was no answer to a message of cheers of kindness. Powhatan acted like he never invited him. When the beads and the other things were laid before him, of course they brought stuff. He pretended he did not care for them. He wished for nothing but guns and swords. See, he knew what to hold out for. Smith gave him a fine speech. Captain Smith was too wise and careful to put himself so easily at the chief's power. The next day, while the rest of the party were trading with the Indians for corn, he had another long talk with Powhatan. Each tried to make the other believe that he only had love in his heart. Of course, yeah, you're good. Yes, me, I'm good. You're good too. So the chief decided to come up with a plan, and he knew he couldn't attack him because he was afraid that the white man would take him prisoner or kill him with his deadly weapons. So they both was, the thing is both didn't trust each other at all. And he did not dare to attack him openly. He was too much afraid of the white man's weapons. At the same time, he was afraid that they might capture him and take him away with them, which was their plan all along. He left with some of his women. Remember, he had 20 wives. And he left orders with his warriors to surround the wigwam and attack Smith and his companions. The white men were in great danger. They did not waste a moment, but rushed right and left, banishing their swords and firing their pistols. The Indians were so frightened that they all fled, leaving the white men free to go out of the hut and reach their friends. When Powhatan heard that this plan failed, he sent a present of beautiful pearls to Smith. Like, oh, I'm sorry, that never happened. I never did that. And,
I don't know what the warriors were doing.
Yeah, I don't know why I just left and they just went berserko, try to kill you. He got in his boat and he kind of sailed away. Powhatan wanted to plan a fresh attack. They needed to watch out for their, because it was dark in the forest. The warriors ordered to destroy the Englishmen. Okay, so they're in their boats, right? And it's still muddy and they can't go because there's ice on the river. This is where it gets really, so they're sitting out in the dark, it's at night. They're sitting there and they can't move and they're trying to get going and the warriors are coming. This is where Pocahontas comes in. Pocahontas heard her father talking and learned what he meant to do, because now they're like fish in a barrel. They're all in the boat. Her loving little heart beat with pity for Smith. She must save him again. And so in the middle of the night, she crept away from her people and went to the white men to warn them that they must flee from the place they would and save their lives. Even though the danger was great, they could not go for some time yet, and they must wait for the rising of the tide, and they stood ready for the attack, although through the long dark hours till the boat could leave the place, carry them off in safety. Powhatan was much disappointed because he could not carry out his plan and did not give up hope of driving the pale place from Virginia. Okay, we're going to skip a little bit here. Not long afterwards, one of the Indians got hold of some gunpowder. One of the Indians got hold of some gunpowder. He pretended he knew how to use it, and a number of his friends gathered around to see what he would do with it. Somehow or another, it took fire, and there was a sudden explosion. In a few moments, the owner of the gunpowder, as well as 2 or 3 other men, were dead. Oh boy, they had no idea, did they? And of course, after a while, let's see, in a course of time, his fears passed away. He once more began to seize English firearms. So now they were attacking individuals and taking their guns. Pretty smart of them. He once more began to seize English firearms whenever he had the chance. He still hoped to conquer the white men. One day, Smith got badly burned. His wound would not heal, so he went back to England to be under the care of a good surgeon. And then after he went away, Pocahontas was made prisoner. See, this is the smart part. The Pocahontas was made prisoner by the people of Jamestown. They thought Powhatan loved her so much that he would give a great deal of corn besides firearms that he had stolen from them for the sake of getting back his precious daughter. Of course, Powhatan wished for his daughter, but now that he knew that she was safe, and even although she was a prisoner, he hated to give up the firearms. He took a long time to decide. Before he could make up his mind what to do, a young Englishman named John Rolfe asked for Pocahontas to be his wife. See, now I always thought it was John Smith that became the husband, but it was John Rolfe that became the husband of Pocahontas. When Powhatan heard the news, he was happy that his daughter was marrying a white man. And after that, he had less fear of the Englishmen after that. Pocahontas and her father was told that Smith was dead, but he would not believe it. He sent him one of his counselors to England to find out if this is the best part. He sent this man to England to find out if this were true. This man married a sister of Pocahontas, who had crossed the ocean on a visit to England with her husband. The great chief also ordered that when the counselor reached England, he should find out how many people there were in this country and what kind of place it was. If he found Smith, he must ask him to show the white man's God and the king and queen. When the traveler landed in England, he began to make notches on a long stick, one notch for each person he saw. But he soon found himself in such thick crowds that he gave up counting all the people of England. When he came back to Virginia, his chief asked him what he had learned about the white man's country and how many people there were. Now, how many people do you think he told him? Do you have any
Stars
idea?
in the sky.
Yes. The answer: count the stars in the sky, the leaves on the trees, the sands on the seashore, for such is the number of the people of England. From this time that Pocahontas married John Rolfe, Powhatan was kinder to the English than he had ever been before. There were other reasons besides this for keeping peace with them. Of course, he knew he was outgunned. As the years went by, more ships came from England. The white settlement grew larger and stronger. No doubt Powhatan thought of, as many other chiefs did in later times, it is no use to stand against the white men. They are more powerful than the poor Indians. 11 years after Smith and his party landed at Jamestown, Powhatan, now old gray-headed man, died quietly among his people with his family and friends around him. And there you go. The story of Powhatan, the father of Pocahontas. And there you go.
So then, but the answer to the John Smith thing,
Yes.
he had died from those wounds from being burned?
Apparently, I don't know exactly what happened to John Smith. I can look it up. Well, but
Because it just kind of, did he go back to England and, to be, rest and recoup or?
yeah.
And also, I just want to put this in a strange context. By this time in Jamestown, in the 11 years that they were doing it, they were having all kinds of boats coming back and forth. It wasn't just one or two. They were having all kinds of ships going back and forth. So
Yeah.
they had already established a decent mercantile type thing, supplying the settlers and picking up whatever they could and bringing it back.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is interesting. But that by, when was Jamestown established? 16 what?
1607, I think was.
Yeah, okay. So in less than like 30 years, they already had all this trade back and forth.
Yep, it was 1607. He was wounded and captured in 1602. Turks. He had a military reputation. Of course, he went to the colony. It struggled with food. According to Smith, the chief's younger daughter, Pocahontas, saved him from execution. By 1608, only 38 of the 404 settlers are still alive. Chief Powhatan sent food. More settlers arrive in England. Was elected president of Jamestown. He was a president, of course. English settlers had a rocky and often violent relationship with Powhatan. And of course, they wanted the guns. We're exploring map. 1614, 1615 he was captured by French pirates and imprisoned for several months. He was released. Smith was unable to find anyone in England to back up further voyages across the Atlantic. He focused on writing about his experience, publishes works such as the General History of Virginia in 1624 and the True Travel Adventures and Observations of Captain John Smith in 1630. Though Smith was known to exaggerate his own exploits, and many have questioned the veracity of his claims, especially those about his rescue by Pocahontas. Modern scholars verify at least some of his information about Jamestown Colony. Smith was approached to serve as military leader for the Pilgrims in 1620, but the group selected Miles Standish instead. They did use Smith's maps of New England. Smith died in London in June 1631 at the age of 51. So he might have been alive when what's his name? Powhatan was still alive, I mean,
right.
He sent this guy over there. So who knows?
Yeah, he would. Yes, he would have still, because he sent him 11 years.
Yeah.
And so he lived, but to the point. So, and, he was known for his exaggerations. Well, in one of those pictures, you see the natives holding his head down like they're going to chop his head off on a chopping block.
Yeah.
So this saving of his life, actually, he was on a boat with some of his guys stuck in the middle of a river and nowhere near getting his head chopped off. I mean, from the standpoint of the pictures and what was related. Now, how did they get this idea that they would, that he was somehow, his head was on a chopping block?
Well, the first time he was captured, remember the first time he was captured, and then they sent him those letters. So maybe, but see then that's the thing too.
But Pocahontas didn't save him that time, though.
No, yeah. But,
that's so it looks like they have confused the first capture with the second.
yeah.
And she didn't plead with her father. She just. Can you imagine how pissed off her dad was?
Oh yeah.
She went and warned them or whatever.
Spoiled my plans. It's always the pretty ones too. His favorite daughter. He's got 20 wives, and the one daughter, Pocahontas, was his favorite, apparently.
Well, but see, do we really know that too?
I don't know, but apparently he didn't. She might have not been, because he wouldn't trade the corn. It said he much loved her, but he wasn't going to give up his weapons or trade all his corn in for her.
Right. So, I mean, even so, he was a practical man in that, well, I got 20 wives. If she was the favorite, he would have just attacked and brought her home. But anyway.
Yeah.
Counted some coup along the way.
That's right. Well, it is quite interesting because, these Indians, they had corn and we didn't. And the white man came and they just kept coming. And I can't imagine when if I was Powhatan and I sent my guy and I waited and all of a sudden the guy comes back and he says, there's so many, it's more than the stars in the sky and the leaves on the tree, the sands on the seashore. I'd be like, there's that many? My whole kingdom, I don't have that many.
And I can see, because Powhatan wasn't a stupid man. He probably sat back on his little chair there and got to thinking, how many's in one boat?
Yes.
How long would it take them to bring that many of them over here?
Yeah.
And he was probably thinking, rightly so, if we start a war with them right now, we really don't have a chance. But if enough of them come over and bring weapons and stuff, maybe we can kill them off, use their weapons against them, which they tried, know.
Yeah, exactly. They could only do so. They knew that their weapons were no match for, the guns and the cannons and the swords. I mean, like I said, it's you got a stick with a stone, stones and sticks and deer antlers, and sure, you're brave as can be, but somebody with a gun standing 50 feet away and just shoots you, that ain't bravery. That's just stupidity. And I think they knew it.
Yeah, I think so too.
They weren't stupid. They knew that, I can't even get close to them. I can be brave all I want, but they got this big cannon and it shoots off a big giant noise enough to shake the earth, and then all my men drop over dead.
Yeah, and it takes down trees and shrubs and
I mean, especially never seeing anything like that before. And then all of a sudden you got this thing that can just, wipe everything out in its path like a cannon. I don't even know what it's speaking.
I wonder how long it took the native nations, once Jamestown was established, the first year or two, for native peoples up and down the East Coast, at least, and as far inland, for them to know that these folks had rifles. You know what I mean? I'm sure that there were runners between camps and stuff and everything, but I'm just curiosity, and I wonder how long it took the natives to find out how bad the white man was.
I don't think it took too long.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because every story I've read is when they first seen the white man, they were afraid of him, because I'm reading another story, and basically that they were afraid of the white man because the white man pulled up in a boat, seen some Indians, grabbed them up, took them as slaves, sailed off. It's like, holy cow, and just like these Indians, they seen the white man came, next thing you know, they're shooting at him, killing them, and then they want to trade, and then they just keep coming. It's terrible. It's terrible. But yeah, we got it. A lot of people in the house tonight. We got Max Vision. Thanks for coming. Isb is in the house. Saturnian Sun. We got Stars of the Morning Light. And she says, I might be wrong, but it isn't the word now view Pocahontas as a traitor now?
Yeah, because, yeah.
And Linda Brooks is in the house. Hey, Linda, how you doing? Lucky Smith. And Lucky Smith says something about Plymouth has its own rock. It's called Plymouth Rock, of course. Let's see. The Soul Tribe is prospering. Witchy Moon's in the house. Elderberry's here tonight with us. And, I missed something in here. There's something important. And I was looking at it. It says, Courtney says my ancestor is John Howland, a boy who fell off the Mayflower. He was one of the actual hood guys. Hood guys. I don't understand. Hood guys. Oh, anyway, he was on the Mayflower. There you go. You got an ancestor.
Go ahead.
What? Go ahead.
I wanted to toss this out about, now, so the settlers come over.
Yes.
Now, there's all these Indians, all these tribes up and down. But the settlers in Jamestown, if they didn't have corn, they were going to starve.
Yep.
Now, all these Indians been living there, they weren't starving.
Yeah.
Because they knew how to use the resources that were there. So here's all these guys, gals, whatever, basing their survival on corn. When they got the bay, they could have been oyster hunting, they could have been fishing, they could have been trapping, they could have been, and what they're going to starve to death out of so many people that went there was only like 38 survived or something out of 100 or something like that. I want to say it's their own damn fault. Don't blame it on the Indian, because you somehow, oak trees, the first pioneers made breads out of acorns and stuff. So listen, I want to say that, they were just, excuse my French, it was just a bunch of dumbasses and ill-prepared, because there's all this stuff that they could have lived. The fact that they lived or where they do along the ocean, there's all, come on now. And y'all starve? That's your fault.
See, but I beg to differ, because the white man at that time didn't have corn. They didn't have a lot of this knowledge that you're talking about. The Indians had all that stuff.
That's what I meant by dumbass.
So when they got there, they were used to eating what? What did they bring with them that they were used to eating? And did they come in the spring, the summer, or the fall? If they did come in the summer, you wouldn't have had it much for a growing season. And then winter comes, you don't have any stored up food. You know what I'm saying? So now you're looking at it, and the Indians said, hey, we got this corn. The white man had really not seen much of corn till that point in time.
I know, but they threw everything behind only corn, is my point. When there, there was, England's got, and Portugal, they got fishing industries.
Yes.
And there's great fishing off the coast and in the rivers and stuff up there. So this idea that somehow, and that deer were plentiful, and I'm sorry, I find it hard to believe that the reason that they starved was because they didn't have any corn. I'm just saying.
Yes. Yeah, I do agree. I do agree that they should have planned things out better. They are kind of like pioneers, like you said about the acorns, but did they have acorns like that in England? Did they ever make flour in England out of acorns, or were they just all about wheat? Because that's what they had in England was wheat.
And rye.
Yeah. And barley, I think it was barley, wheat, and rye.
And there would have been like porridge.
Yeah.
Like an oatmeal kind of thing.
So, that's a good thing. I think I'm going to study on that a little bit. What kind of foods did they have with them? What were they growing? And then again, were they so busy building their fort and their houses that they forgot about storing food up, and they said, well, we'll just get it from the Indians.
Right.
Problem solved.
I just find it interesting that if I'm starving, but I live near a river or the ocean, I'm gonna be fishing. If I got to build me a mud hut big enough to stay, make it through the winter, I'm gonna be fishing and trapping along the waterways and stuff, because I find it hard to believe that, having lived along the Gulf Coast and Tampa and the rivers and stuff, that they couldn't feed themselves. It
is a good point, and I don't know the answer for you on that.
I know, but but when you read the stories, though,
yes,
it's all about the corn. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Because
for whatever the reason was, it became all about the corn.
Exactly. It was like, apparently there was plenty of fowl out there, because every time he turned around, I'm sending them 20 turkeys. I'm sending them, 5 deer and 20 turkeys, and so there was plenty of animals running around that they could hunt. So I don't know. I really don't know. I'm gonna have to put some study into it, because that's a very good question.
But anyway, I think it was the mindset of the white man versus the red man, who grew up with all these things that were just, they were used to going hungry and when the snow was high or whatever, and they just kind of sat back but they knew how to keep some jerky and enough stuff, whereas I think these settlers, they were just off the streets of wherever, and they were just very ill prepared, But I still scratch my head and go, they found the corn to be valuable. Okay, but all the stories became about corn. I'm just curious as to how that got started. Why wasn't it turkeys? Why wasn't it something else? Later on it became tobacco,
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Very, very interesting. If anybody out there knows the answer to that, let me know. I'd be very curious to find out, because did they take that much from the Indians? They're growing things, because I know the Indians had squash, and we named off a bunch of those vegetables that the Indians were growing: squash and beans and potatoes and corn, and the Indians had all those vegetables, and the white man didn't have any of them. So
right. For example, back when I was a Boy Scout, all them years in the 60s, we learned that, for example, a lot of people know what a cattail is. Big, tall, bit, grows up in the spring, got a big, looks like a hot dog sitting on the end of it, Well, the Pilgrims used to use that fluff at the end and use it for down, like feathers from a goose or something, as insulation in their clothing. And the natives knew long time ago that if you boiled the roots, you could eat them. So there were things, and there are places where there are cattails everywhere, and there are other types of root crops that are just natural. And I just find it interesting that, not that they starved, but that they blamed it all on not having enough corn.
Yes. And the cattails thing is very interesting, because we looked that up in that book. When we were doing some plant stuff, about you could pull the cattail up, and then you could take the root of the cattail, looks like a bulb, and cut that up, and it's like a potato. And I am going to try that this year if I get a chance, and go out there and find me some cattails and pull them up and eat them and see what happens, if I drop over dead. But
I don't think so, because folks have been eating them for a long time.
Oh, I know, but I mean, I'm just saying is if that's the case, they could have had a wealth of food. They were just maybe they didn't know those weren't because who would have told them? I don't know. I really don't know.
But so but back again to the story of I want whoever wrote the story and made it about corn. It's just a curiosity from my point of view. you
Oh
know.
yeah, it
Just,
definitely is.
Why did they
Definitely
make it-
is.
Whoever wrote that story, why did they make it about corn?
Absolutely. So what do we got for tonight?
I've been looking up, what I haven't read, and I'm about half and half on this one, and it's on page 80. Wait, sorry about that. 77. It's called The Good Twin and the Evil Twin.
The Good Twin and the Evil, page 77.
And yeah, there was another one.
Okay. Linda Brooks is in the house tonight. She is starting her own farm from the ground up. I tell you, that's the best way to go and the best way to learn. Trust me, there's no college like the College of Hard Knocks. I've been there, done that. I couldn't go to college for learning how to farm, so I did my own. And trust me, there was a lot of animals that paid the price for me to learn, which was pretty sad. But hey, I learned from the best, and that way I got to know a lot of people. And the best part about it is once I did all my farming and everything, I got pretty good at it and learned how to raise animals, and I could doctor the animals. I tell you, when something gets sick, people would call me on the phone because they knew I was a darn good doctor.
Should have been a vet.
Yeah, well, the thing was, I would have the vet come out when I had a sick animal, and then they would be like, well, here's $100, and then they would do a couple little things, and I'm like, well, I could have done that. The only problem is I didn't do that. They did. And after that, I was like, I'm learning. And then I started talking and making friends with old farmers and old horse traders. And, the older people, they seem to knew, all these things. They went through all of that. They didn't call a vet out every time unless it was something really horrible. And for the most part, after that, I started learning all the tricks and how to do things, how to give shots and how to doctor stuff up and which one. Well, if that animal's too far gone, it's cheaper to, put it down than it is to keep feeding it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
And
then
to spend the time to try to save it as well.
yeah, the
So
money
there
and
are other
time.
things that get neglected. So
Yeah, exactly. And which one's to save? Do you save the mother or do you save the babies? And you do your best to save both, but if you have to sacrifice one and live to fight another day. That's the way I look at it.
yep, that's the harsh reality of life.
It
That
is.
a lot of people don't ever see.
And in the beginning, I felt really sad over the death of some animals. But in the end, I started realizing that when one animal is dying or one animal dies, another one's having babies. And, like, for instance, if I had a sheep that died, and then 2 days, I think this is when it hit me, is a couple days later, and I didn't even know it, but one of my chickens was running around. She had laid a clutch of eggs, hid somewhere, and she hatched out a dozen chicks, and she's parading around the yard. And I realized that, yeah, that sheep might have died, but now I got 12 chicks, so I didn't lose, here's life here. Yeah, there's life here. And, and the sheep, they'll have more babies, and then I'll have more babies. And they did, throughout the year, maybe you lose one here or one there for this or that. And in the spring, all of a sudden, all the rest of the sheep are having babies, and you double your herd overnight. And you're like, well, things are back to normal. Things are good. And on the farmstead. Gotta love it. So there we go. Anyway, I got it pulled up and we're ready to go. How's that? The Good Twin and the Evil Twin.
See, I've read so many of these stories, but I can't remember if I've read them out loud. So So I read through this again and I thought, if I've read this one, it's been a long time. So
No, I don't think you read this one. I don't remember hearing this one.
it's a little long and I would have picked the short ones around it.
Yeah. Yes.
So we ready? Wait, let me get
Yeah,
let me get a
anytime you
sip.
are.
The good twin and the evil twin from the Yuma tribe. This is how it all began. There was only water. There was no sky. There was no land, only nothingness. Then out of the water rose a mist, and it became the sky. Still there were no sun, no moon, no stars, just darkness. But deep down in the waters lived Kokomate, the creator. He was bodiless, nameless, breathless, motionless, and he was two beings, twins. Then the waters stirred and rushed in thunder, and out of the spray and foam rose the first twin, the good twin. With closed eyes, he cleaved the waves and came to the surface. He stood upon the waters, opened his eyes, and saw. There he named himself Kokomat, All Father. And from beneath the waters, a second voice called out to Kokomat, Brother, how did you rise? With eyes open or with eyes closed? Bakotal was the evil twin, and Kokomat wanted to make it more difficult for him to do harm. So Kokomat lied to him, saying, I opened my eyes while I was under the water. The second twin opened his eyes as he rose, and when he reached the surface, he was blind. Kokomat said, I name you Bakotal, the blind one. Then Kokomat said, now I shall make the four directions. He pointed with his finger and took 4 steps, walking on the water. Then he stood still for a while and said, oh, this is north. Then he went back to his starting place and in the same manner made the west, the south, and the east, always taking 4 steps in each direction and always returning to the center. Now Kokomat said, I shall make the earth. Blind Bakutals answered, I don't think you have the power to do this. Certainly I have, said Kokomat. Let me try to make the earth first, said Bakutal. Certainly not, said Kokomat. Kokomat stirred the waters into a foaming whirlpool with his hand. Then they frothed and swelled and bubbled. And when they subsided, there was land, and Kokomat sat down upon it. Bakotal was angry because he would have liked to create the earth, but he said nothing and settled down by Kokomat's side. The blind evil one said to himself, I shall make something with a head, with arms and legs. I can make it out of the earth. Bakotal formed something resembling a human being, but it was imperfect. Instead of hands and feet, there were lumps. It had neither fingers nor toes. Bakotal hid it from Kokomat. Then Kokomat said, I feel like making something. Out of mud, he shaped a being that was perfect. It had hands and feet and fingers and toes and even fingernails and toenails. Kokomat waved his being 4 times towards the north and then stood on its feet. It moved. It walked. It was alive. It was a man. Kokomat made another being in the same way, and it was alive. And it was a woman. Bakotal went on trying to make humans, piecing together 7 beings out of earth. All were imperfect. What are you making? Kokomat asked. People, answered Bakotal. Here, said Kokomat, feed these people I have made. Yours have no hands nor feet. Here, feel. Mine have fingers, thumbs to do work, to fashion things, to draw bows, to pick fruit. Kokomat examined the beings Bakatal had formed. These are no good, he said, and stamped them to pieces. Bakatal was so enraged that he dove down deep beneath the waters amid rumblings and thunderings. From the depths he sent up the whirlwind, bringer of all evil. Kokomat stepped on the whirlwind and killed it, except for a little whiff that slipped out from under his foot. In it were contained all the sicknesses which plague people to this day. So Kokomat was by himself except for the two beings he had made. These were the Yumas. And in the same way that he had created them, Kokomat now made the Kokopas, the Degenios, and the Mojaves. In pairs he created them. Then he rested. 4 tribes he had created. After having rested, he made 4 more tribes: the Apache, the Maricopas, the Pimas, and the Cahohilas. In all, he made 24 kinds of people. The white people he left for last. The one he had made first, the Yuma man, said to Kokomat, teach us how to live. You must learn how to increase, said Kokomat. In order to teach them, he begat a son. Out of nothing, without help from a woman, he sired him and named him Komashitamaho. He told men and women not to live apart, but to join together and rear children. Still something was missing. It was too dark, said Kokomat. There should be some light. So he made the moon, the morning star, and all the other stars. And then he said, my work is done. Whatever I have not finished, my son Kokomashtamiho will finish. Now among the beings Kokomat had made was Hanyi the frog. She was powerful. Fire could not destroy her. She envied Kokomat his power and thought to destroy him. Kokomat knew this because he knew the thoughts of all the beings he had made, but he said to himself, I taught the people how to live. Now I must teach them how to die. For without death, there will soon be too many people on earth. So I will permit Frog to kill me. Hanyi burrowed down underneath the spot where Kokomat was standing and sucked the breath out of his body through a hole in the earth. Then Kokomat sickened and lay down to die. He called all the people to come to him, and all came except the white man, who stayed by himself in the west. The white man was crying because his hair was faded and curly and his skin pale and washed out. The white man was also pouting and selfish. Whatever he saw, he had to have it at once. He had been created childish and greedy. Kotso Shamtaho, tired of hearing the white man crying, went over to him and tied 2 sticks together in form of a cross. Here, stop crying, he said. There's something for you to ride on. The white man straddled these sticks and they turned into a horse, so the greedy one was satisfied for a while. For the last time now, Kokomat taught the people. Learn how to die, he told them, and expired. I have to make what my father could not finish, said Komashatanho. He spat into his hand and from his spittle made a disc. He took it and threw it up into the sky towards the east, and it began to shine. This is the sun, Kokomashtatamho told the people. Watch it move, watch it lighting up the world. Then Komomashtamho prepared to burn the body of his father. But since there were no trees yet, he had no wood. Kokomachtamho called out, wood, come into being. Wood, come alive. Wood, come here to where I stand. Wood came from everywhere and formed itself into a great funeral pyre. Before he died, Kokomat had told Coyote, friend, take my heart. Be faithful. Do what I tell you. Coyote misunderstood Kokomat and thought that he was supposed to eat the heart. Komo Shatamho knew this because he could see into Coyote's mind. So he told Coyote, get a spark from the sun to light a fire. As soon as Coyote was gone, Komo Shatamho took a sharpened stick and twirled it in some soft wood until he sparked a flame. Look, my people, he said, this is the way to make fire. Quick now before Coyote comes back. With these words, he lit the funeral pyre. The people did not lament for Kokomat because they did not yet understand what death was. But before the flames had consumed the body, Coyote returned and leapt up quick as a flash to seize Kokomat's heart. He ran off with it, and though all the other animals and people too chased after him, he was too fast for them. Koko Shamtamho called after Coyote, you have done something bad. You will never amount to anything. You will be a wild man without a house to live in. You will live by stealing, and for your thefts, the people will kill you. After Kokomat's body had been burned, the people asked Koko Shamtaho, when will Kokomat come back? He will never come back, he said. He is dead. He let himself be killed because if he had gone on living, then all you people would also live forever. And soon there would be no room left on the earth. So from now on, everybody will die sometime. Then all the people began to lament. They wept for Kokomat and for themselves. They did not want to believe that he would never come back. As they sat grieving, they saw a little whirlwind like a dust devil rising from the spot where Kokomat had been burned. What is it? What can it be? They cried. Kochumatsu told them, it is the spirit of Kokomat. His body died, but his soul is alive. He will go someplace, north or south, east or west, but somewhere his spirit will dwell. He will never tire. He will never be hungry or thirsty. And though we weep because he has died, Kokomat's spirit will be happy always. And Komo Shatamho instructed the people in the nature of death. When you die, you'll begin with those you love who have gone before you. Again, you'll be young and strong, though you might have been old and feeble on the day you died. In the spirit land, the corn grow and all will be happy, whether they were good or bad when they were alive. So death is not something to be afraid of. And when they heard this, the people stopped weeping and smiled again. Then Komo Shatamho chose one man, Marhokyokek, to help him put the world in order. The first thing that he did was to say, ho, you people, as a sign that you mourn the death of your father Kokomat, you should cut your hair short. Then all the people, animals, and birds did as they had been told. The animals at this time were people also. They looked like humans. But when he saw them, Kokomachuho said, these animals and birds don't look well with their hair cut, and changed them into coyotes and deer, and into wild turkeys and road runners, into the animals and the birds we have now. After some time, Komo Ashamtaho let fall a great rain, the kind that never stops. There was a flood in which many of the animals were drowned. Marhokuvak was alarmed. Komohashamataho, what are you doing? He cried. Some of these animals are too wild. Some have big teeth and claws and are dangerous. Also, there were simply too many of them, so I am killing them off with this flood. No, Komo Shamtaho, stop the flood, pleaded Marho Kabuk. The people need many of these animals for food. They like to hear the songs of the birds. Rain and flood make the world too cold, and the people can't stand it. So Komo Shavatamaho made a big fire to cause the waters to evaporate. The fire was so hot and fierce that even Komo Shatamho himself was slightly burned. Ever since that time, the deserts around here have been hot and the people are used to the warmth. After that, he called the people together and told them, over there is your father Komohat's house. We must pull it down because when a man dies, the spirits of his house and all of his belongings follow him to the spirit land. So people must destroy all the things he owned in this life so that their spirits can serve him in the other world. Also, after a man has died, it is not good to look upon the things that he used to own. One sees his house, but he who dwelt in it is gone. One sees his waterola, but he who owned it no longer here to lift it to his lips. It makes people sad and they sicken with grief and longing. Therefore you, Yama people, must always burn the house and possessions of those who die. And you must move to another dwelling where nothing reminds you of the dead. Also, never again mention the name of him who is gone. He belongs to another life, while you must start on a new one. And from that time on, the Yuma have followed these rules. Komo Shama Tamho took a huge pole, smashed the house of Komomat, and rooted up the ground on which it had stood. Water welling up from the rut made by the pole became the Colorado River, and in it swam the beings that Bakutahal, the blind evil one, had formed, the creatures without hands or feet, toes or fingers. These were the fish and the other water animals. Now Kahak, the crow, was a good planter and a reaper. He brought corn and all kinds of useful seeds from the four corners of the world. He flew south to the great water, stopping 4 times on the way and crying, Kahak, Kahak. Each time he did this, a big mountain arose. After the overflow of the river, which Komohachatamaho had made, Crow bought many seeds from the south for the people to plant. The tribes had been scattered over all the world, but Komo Shamtaho kept the human near him because they were the special people he loved. Listen closely, he said to them. I cannot stay with you forever. I am now only one, but soon I will become 4. My name will no longer be Komo Shatamho. I will turn myself into 4 eagles, the black eagle of the west, the brown eagle of the south, the white eagle of the east, and the 4th eagle, whose name is unseen because no man has ever caught a glimpse of him. When Komoshatamho had turned himself into the 4 eagles, he dwelt no longer among the Yuma in the shape of a man. He kept watch over them, however, and in their dreams he gave them power from Kokomat. Thus, Kokomat advises the people through Komohachu and tells them while they sleep, think about me. Think of what I taught you. Sick people especially should follow my teachings. Now, Bakotal, the evil blind one, is under the earth and does bad things. Usually he lies down there quietly, but sometimes he turns over. Then there is a great noise of thunder. The earth trembles and splits open, and the mountainsides crack. while flames and smoke shoot out of their summits. Then the people are afraid and say, the blind evil one is stirring down below. Everything that is good comes from Kokomat, and everything evil comes from Baktahal. This is the tale, how it was, and how it is, and how it will be. Retold from several sources, among them Natalie Curtis's report in 1909.
Well, mighty darn good.
Now, we have heard all kinds of different creation stories, and I just thought this one was like, wow. You know,
Yeah,
it's a lot different in a lot of ways, but there are still similarities. But, you know, to burn possessions. And so it's interesting that there are those tribes and there are those cultures like the Japanese and other folks, you know, that, and the Mexican people as well, you know, on the Day of the Dead, November 1st, they put out, you know, offerings. They make a little altar of sorts with pictures and a candle of the loved ones and little plates of food and this and that, you know, so to remember the ancestors. So this one, the Yuma, for whatever reason, now we don't want to talk about grandma. You know, nope, don't mention her. Nope, live in the present and in the future. But what if grandma taught us some really good stuff? Wait, we can't talk about grandma. But anyway, and that's the other part of this story. I'm like, wow, to not want to think about them or keep something that reminds them of them, or, you know, nope, get rid of it. Because we don't want them spirits hanging around. So, but anyway, I prefer to remember, at least up to this point in my life. You know.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
So, the first card up.
Oh, card time.
And you don't even have to ask, is Fox.
Fox.
Yeah, number 25. And in some of the card readings, Fox has come up, but I don't think it's come up in our reading, but at least not recently.
Not recently. I know we had Fox a while back, but
yeah,
not recently.
So Fox is about camouflage. Fox, where are you? Under the ferns, becoming the forest so I can learn? Are you watching, invisible to me, trying to teach me how to become a tree? Wily Fox has many allies in the woodlands, including the foliage, which offers protection and much medicine. Fox is seemingly able to vanish amidst the lush undergrowth of the forest. The flora is Fox's ally. The ability to meld into one's surroundings and be unnoticed is a powerful gift when one is observing the activities of others. Another natural gift of Fox is the ability to adapt to winter by changing color, like the chameleon. Fox medicine involves adaptability, cunning, observation, integration, and swiftness of thought and action. These traits may also include quick decisiveness and sure-footedness in the physical world. Fox's ability to be unseen allows it to be the protector of the family unit. If danger arises, Fox is Johnny on the spot. Nahi Waiya, great spirit in the Choctaw tongue, honors Fox with the duty of keeping the family together and safe. This is accomplished through Fox's ability to observe undetected without making others self-conscious. Fox is always concerned with the safety of family members, and it is an excellent talisman for those traveling far afield. If Fox has chosen to share its medicine with you, it is a sign that you are to become like the wind, which is unseen, yet is able to weave in and through any location or situation. You would be wise to observe the acts of others rather than their words at this time. Okay, so here's the key thing about this. you would be wise to observe the acts of others rather than pay attention to their words at this time. So, they might be talking nonsense, but when you watch their actions, you observe the truth about them. Use your cunning nature in a positive way. Keep silent about who and what and why you are observing. In learning the art of camouflage, you need to test your abilities to pull this off. One test or exercise that may be helpful to you is deciding to be invisible. In doing this exercise, you might try to visualize your body as part of your surroundings, full of the colors of the location you're in. See yourself in your mind's eye, moving with stealth and grace, unheeded by others. If you do it right, it works. You can always leave a party unnoticed to become as unobtrusive as a piece of furniture, watching the developing drama of the subjects you are studying. Now, my suggestion in this, because there are so many things changing in this world, we need to be like Fox and observe, not necessarily hiding ourselves, but just not making ourselves a target. While learning from Fox, you might also gain confidence in your ability to know instantly what will happen next. After observing for a while, you become aware of certain predictability in given situations, and you'll be able to quickly make your move. Fox medicine teaches the art of oneness through its understanding of camouflage. This applies on all levels, from rocks to the creator. With Fox medicine, you are being asked to see all types of uses for oneness. Much like the clowns at the rodeo, Fox can keep the raging bull from stampeding a friend or a family member. Fox can use silly tactics as a brilliant camouflage to move. No one can guess the sly power behind such ingenious maneuvers. So to be like Fox, you're standing right in front of folks, but you can be invisible. For the art of observation, which is interesting because I've talked to a few people here recently, and I said, it's about becoming the compassionate observer in life. If you go get involved in too many things, you'll lose your own way. But you got to keep an eye out there and observing the rest of the world, because sometimes it's necessary for you to become involved, or for us to become involved. So the next one up is elk. And elk is about stamina. Now, I don't know if I read the elk card last time, but the last time I did a reading, I did. So elk is about stamina. Elk, your antlers reach for the sun. Show me that strength and stamina are one. Now, this is a long story about the elk and the mountain lion, but elk's out there making a lot of noise because it's mating season. And as elk is bellowing his call through the forest, mountain lion realizes that a feast could be in the making. So mountain lion circled the elk, getting closer to his prey moment by moment. Elk sensed the impending danger when the forest grew suddenly silent. He broke for the high country when he spotted his pursuer, the mountain lion. But mountain lion was far behind. As elk made a running leap for the timberline, mountain lion gained on him, but elk continued to run onward, displaying tremendous stamina. Finally, mountain lion gave up, having spent his energy in spurts, and elk paced himself, making headway as he climbed toward the high country. Elk had no other defense except his ability to go the distance, setting a pace that allowed him to utilize his stamina and energy to the fullest. Now, in this time, for all of us, if we allow our stamina to wane, if we get weak, if our courage, dwindles or, or fades away or whatever, we have lost our medicine. And elk, and it was a right side up card. We need to regain our stamina. And so for me personally, I've been outside, even though it's hot, I'm still taking walks late in the evening, late at night, but because gotta keep my strength up. We have to keep our stamina up. Elk medicine teaches that pacing yourself will increase your stamina. Elk medicine people may not be the first ones to arrive, but they always arrive without getting burned out. If you have taken on too much recently, it might be a good idea to look at how you plan to finish what you've started without ending up in the hospital. So for me, starting gardens and this and that, and the sun has literally baked some of the plants down here. It was 101 in the shade the other day, and that was without any kind of humidity. Elk have curious kind of warrior energy, except at mating time. They honor the company of their own gender. They can call on the medicine of brotherhood or sisterhood. In discovering the strength which is gained from loving the gender that is in your own, you will feel the camaraderie that arises from similarity of experience. If you picked elk medicine, you may be telling yourself to seek the company of your own gender for a while. Go hang out with the girls, and guys go on a canoe trip or go horseback riding. You may need a support group to realign yourself with the stamina and the warrior or warrioress energy that you are a part of. This communication with others of your own sex allows you to air your feelings in safety and to get feedback. Elk could also be telling you to look at how you're holding up physically to the stresses in your life and to pace yourself so that you maintain an equilibrium of energy over the distance. Vitamins or high energy foods may be one solution, along with some personal quiet time for replenishment. Now that's elk. And the third one that was just kind of sort of along with it, upside down, is antelope, which I thought,
we haven't had antelope in a long time. If
uh,
ever.
hang on. All right, there we go. 37. Now this one is upside down.
Okay.
So anybody out there feeling these cards?
Well, I know everybody likes foxes, and Amber Dawn says, donate to the Fox Rescue. They say foxes from fur farms. So there you go. But yeah, we had elk before, but that's foxes is good. They're cunning. We got to be in this day and time and age. We have to be cunning and sharp on things. And elk, strong and salmon. So put the two together, right? And I know what antelope's going to be. Antelope is run away when you got
action.
Action. Yes, take action. Run away.
Run, antelope. Teach me of action and its pace. Now here's two cards, pace. Quickly, so that I may run with grace. Now that's interesting. So it's not that you're just running, but you're running with grace.
Did you ever see an antelope run? Oh my gosh, we got a lot of them around here, and there'll be a barbed wire fence, and they will literally run right up to it, and they can like get on their knees and scoot right in it, or they'll go right between the wires or over the top and not even blink an eye. It's like that fence doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
So antelope's number 37 in its action. When time was just beginning and the tribe of man was small, antelope saw that the two-leggeds were naked, hungry, and in danger of extinction. The ancestors would soon vanish from Mother Earth if action were not taken. Antelope took action and came into the camp, calling all the two-leggeds together for counsel. Great mystery has sent me to teach you a lesson. The lesson is to do. You have no need to be fearful if you know what to do and then you do it, Antelope said. And what shall we do? Asked the people. If you are naked and cold, you should kill me and take my coat to keep you warm. It is my gift to you. Do it. We will, said the people, but what of our hunger? We're starving. What can we do to save ourselves? If you are hungry, you should kill me and take my flesh, for it will nourish you and make you strong. It is my gift to you, and a part of my evolution. It is my service, so do it. Antelope knew that humankind would survive the Ice Age if the people learned to eat meat. Before the movement of the great ice mountains, fruit and vegetables had been plentiful, and the two-leggeds had had no need to eat of the bodies of their fellow creatures. The clans of the second world ate antelope, taking the instinct and wisdom of the four-legged each creature's essence. I'm sorry, I skipped. Taking the instinct and wisdom of the four-leggeds into their bodies, the people learned through each creature's essence how to survive. They were taught never to waste or to take more than they needed. When they were in need, the two-leggeds knew to take action. Humans learn antelope's lesson well. Because of antelope, humans took proper action and survived to this present day. Now, the upside down part. Contrary antelope is a signal that you are not listening and not acting on the will of the Great Spirit. You may be taking more than your share. Antelope medicine, the contrary, makes you crazy and quarrelsome. You will certainly be indecisive and not know which direction to turn. You might be lying to yourself and to others. Stop lying, even if you think it will get you off the hook. Contrary antelope will trip you at every turn. Quit being so conventional and following others all the time. Take your own authority. Let antelope's heart beat strong in you, and you will know the way. But as always, the message is, do it. The fear of the unknown subsides once action begins. Contrary antelope may also be telling you that a decision to start now is necessary. That's whatever it is, start. I know myself, I had stopped some projects and now I have started back on them. It feels good too, by the way, but walking your talk is the essence of animal people. Talking your walk is contrary antelope personified. So there are a lot of people talking about it, but they ain't walking it. To write the contrary antelope, 3 steps are necessary. Have the desire to do something. Make the firm decision to begin that action. And then number 3, do it. The message of antelope.
That's right. That's right. Get out there and do it. Be quick about it.
Do it, do it, do it. Oh, you can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. You can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. No, you can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. But you can be happy if you are mine to. All you got to do is knuckle down to it. Knuckle down, buckle down. Do it, do it, do it. Oh, you can't roller skate in the buffalo. Yeah, Roger Miller back in the 60s.
That's right. That's right. You have some really good ones.
But do it, do it, do it. I mean,
Do it,
you know,
do it.
It's a crazy old song, but you know, you can't change film with a kid on your back. You know.
Oh yeah.
One of the verses, but
so there's other people that are feeling like us. Here, she says, wow, Linda Brick says, wow, David was just talking about a fox earlier. I was also talking about pacing myself and building my stamina because overdid it for the last 5 days and couldn't move. And by Sunday, I had to take a break. Gee, we all had the same problem. It's just saying today, I'm not young anymore and I can't go full force into it like I used to. I have to pace myself, literally, and pace myself, I said. My spirit animal is deer, and they showed up in my yard. Yes, but you got to pace yourself because as you get older, you got to be quick about it, but you got to pace yourself. You run
And
out of
seeing one
steam.
of the things that I had gotten here is, I mean, you know, at 101 in the shade, you know, I walked outside today and I don't have air conditioning. At least I got an air conditioner, but I don't use it at the moment. So, but anyway, so with the fans running, I locked the house down. It was nice and cool in here. About 11 o'clock this morning, me and Duggar go outside, and it was like it was like opening the furnace, opening the oven when that wave hit you. I was like, holy crap.
You know what the worst part about all of that is if you got air conditioning in your house or your vehicle, and then you go outside, it's 10 times worse if you just don't have it. And then you're outside and you come in, it's just a little bit cooler. It feels like, oh, this is great. And then you go outside, it's like, okay, it's hot. But once you hit that air and it's 70 and you go to 101, oof, it kick your butt.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons why I don't use air conditioning, because every year it's so stressful on my body, right?
Yeah.
And it's stressful to everybody. They just don't pay attention. But I made this decision 30 years ago that unless it was so ungodly, horribly hot that it was detrimental to me here in the house, that I was not going to use an air conditioning.
Just use a fan.
But to acclimate yourself to your surroundings. So in a couple of months, in September and October, I'll be going the other direction. I'll be getting used to the cold weather, you know?
Right. That's right. I totally agree. You get too used to that. There's people that die off because, I got the whatever. And the next thing you know, they got air conditioning and the air conditioning clunks out. And then it's, oh, well, shoot. Now what do I do? I'm going to die. It's too hot.
Yep. And I was talking with some friends of mine a couple of weeks ago, and I was mentioning my light bill was $35 and theirs was like $235, and made the statement that, well, our air conditioner is only at 65. And I thought to myself, only 65 in the summertime. And when you walk out of it, so, 75, 85, 95. So 35 degrees of heat hits you where it's only 15 to 20 degrees for me. So it is easier. It's still hot, but I thought to myself, 65 in the summertime? What do you keep it in the winter? 75. And I was like, never mind. If you would allow yourself to get used to 75 year round, your light bill would but anyway, so my suggestion still to people are our energy grid and system, they keep warning us. And with all the heat and stuff, there are rolling blackouts. So I would please, y'all, try and not turn that air conditioner up, not down. Try to get by with 80 degrees. And it's too hot. Well, then have a fan or two that blows on you or something, or circulates the air. But you can live in 80-degree temperature. It does not have to be 70 or 65 in the summertime. Please do yourself a favor. It's hard on your body and on your heart. But not only that, it's going to save a lot of electricity, which equals out all this energy. People over in Europe, there's one Survivor Lily that's got like millions of subscribers. She did a video recently and said that the price of natural gas has gone up so much here, we're not going to be able to heat our home. And it's the only thing we got, and those are the Europeans. Yep. And so thank God I've got a heater, a wood heater. And I've learned how, for example, I'll get off of this in a minute because I know you got to go to bed, Robert. But with all the concrete in my house, and it's 100 outside, 95, we'll leave as an average here. I've got one of those thermometers that you point at something, Yeah. So right now, one of these little do
Yeah,
hangers.
I got one of those too. They're awesome.
Now I'm pointing it down at the floor right in front of me, and the floor is 85 degrees in front of me.
Yeah.
But I pointed over towards the bathroom where there's a lot more concrete, and where Duggar goes to lay on the floor where it's cooler, it's only 80 degrees in there.
Yeah.
So the concrete absorbs the heat and lets it out. I've got the windows open to draw the air through the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so early in the morning, I close the house up, and whatever the floor has become, it gives that coolness off to the house for the rest of the day. It takes a little while in the evening, but the thing is, though, my electric bill is $35 a month.
So, you know, I was doing a little research. This was years back. And one guy was talking about natural air conditioning. And I don't know, you probably heard about this. And the guy says, yeah, he says, so what I did, he says, is I buried a bunch of PVC pipe, you know, in the ground, tubing or whatever it was. And on the end of it, I put a fan, and then this circulated underground, you know, number of feet where it's cool all year round. He says, and then this blows the air through that tubing under there and then into my house. And he says, you know, I'm getting 50, 60 degree cool air coming through this pipe, because by the time that air goes in, you know, it goes in hot, and then it goes through the thing and it comes out, it's cold.
Yeah,
because you don't have to do anything.
3 foot down in the ground, and it's supposed to be like 65 degrees, depending on where you are, all the time. You know, the only way I survived one time on the river was I dug a hole in the sand because it was cooler, and it was way hot. I'd gotten heat exhaustion, stuck on the river, and I dug a trench in the sand and got in it and covered myself up with palmetto fronds to keep me from the heat.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I know that I made it. I mean, you know, if I hadn't have done that, Lord knows. But so anyway, the 3 cards tonight: antelope, you know, take action, stamina with the elk. And I know we need to pace ourselves, because as so many people have said, with all that's gone on in the world in the last 2 years, nothing will ever be the same again. Now we can mince words of this and that, but honestly, nothing's ever going to be the same again. And there are people, even myself at times, what, you know, damn it, I wished I, you know, but here's the thing, what the changes that have been made and the changes that are still in the works, it ain't never going to be like it was 2 years ago. Never. It is never going to be the same. So quit arguing about, you know, the past. We can reflect on it. We can talk about it, but don't become so, oh my God, it's never going to be the same again. Oh my God, but it could be better. I hate to say, you know, God forbid it, we should get worse, but we need to stay positive about this. Yes, it's true. It's never going to be the same. And we should say, thank God, you know, because now we got a chance to learn what we've learned these last 2 years and maybe make it better instead of pining over what it was. And it'll never be the same again.
Yep. But the thing is it gives us a chance to make a better future.
Yeah. So my advice to y'all, chin up. You know.
That's right. And if it does seem bad, which, you know, probably will get bad for a while, you know, the thing is once you hit rock bottom, the only way is up. Right. And so there you go. Yeah.
And the best thing for us to do is just keep an eye on stuff and avoid the sharks, for God's sakes. You know.
Yes, exactly. If you know there's going to be a crisis with the food shortage, buy some extra now. If you think there's going to be a power outage, you know, make sure you got precautions. If you think there's going to be a heat thing this winter and you ain't going to have heat, make sure you got some kind of fuel or firewood or a wood stove or something to keep yourself warm.
And start, and the
Start now.
action that, Antelope is talking about is that, if you only got 6 months before it's wintertime. So, and if you don't have a decent heat source now's the time to be thinking about that mess. Because in a couple of months in the winter, and wintertime comes, don't literally be left out in the cold. And the other thing is that if you think there's going to be a food shortage, then eat one good solid meal a day. Cut that which you eat down. Because if you're used to eating big plates full of food and stuff, and it comes and there's food rationing, the heavy people that eat more every day are going to be the ones that suffer the most, because they can't get what they normally consume. And if they did, they're going to run out of food before the rest of us. Learn how to deal with one good meal a day and be happy with it. And thank the universe you got it to eat.
That's absolutely true. And Jules
because
says
that's the best way to prepare.
Jules says the only constant is change.
There you go. Thank you, Miss Jules.
Absolutely. Let's see. She said, Linda Brooks says, I agree, David. I was just talking about that with my family, building stamina, because we may be using our bodies more now, walking and working outside, which is actually positive. We will be healthier. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. If you think there's going to be a food shortage, like you said, make sure that when the day comes, you don't have any food. You don't go berserko because your stomach is growling and you don't know how to control yourself.
Or what to do on the short term. To like eat a little bit of something that'll make them growls go down, but keeping you running, one to eat your neighbor.
Yeah, don't eat your neighbor. We're not suggesting you eat your neighbor.
And one thing I learned it years ago, but I'm relearning it again. It seems to be a constant reminder, as hot as it is. I mean, this spring was nice and cool, and me and Doug were walking in the woods and all around and looking for things. It's too damn hot to do that. Okay. Even in the evening, it's still 80-something degrees outside right now. So, but here's the thing though, even foraging for food takes energy.
Yes.
It takes stamina. If you're somewhere and there ain't nothing, and the nearest green area is 2 or 3 miles away, and the only way you got to get there is to hoof it or maybe a bicycle, and you don't have the stamina to get there and come back or whatever. I mean, so stamina in just walking, if you're looking for herbs and spices or whatever, some, local edibles, if you can't walk more than a mile, which is hard for me, your range is going to be limited. So if nothing else, learn how to walk 2 miles so you can extend your range of foraging. Just saying.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Being in good health is very good. Being not muscle bound, but good enough to, not be a total wimp.
Be able to walk 2 miles without it killing you.
Yeah, exactly. Isby says he wants to know if you're going to do a show tonight.
I'm leaning towards it, but
all right.
I'm leaning that way.
Well, we'll go with that. Go get yourself a cup of coffee, people. Take a little load off your shoulders. Sit back and wait for the notification to pop up. Put it that way, right?
Yeah, it'll take me a minute.
Okay. Well, with that, we got to get going. I got to get some sleep. Got to go to work tomorrow. I'm on call tonight. And then after that, it's off to vacation next week. So there you go, everybody.
Before you go, I want everybody, he's going to be on vacation. So we're going to send our love and prayers with our good friend here, Robert, that he has a safe and enjoyable vacation, because we may not see you next week. So
yeah, don't
be
worry.
safe and have a good time.
Hopefully I won't get eaten by a bear. I don't plan on getting eaten by a bear. But But I hopefully get some pictures of bears or elk or wow, I'm going to take the camera with, and it's going to be movie time for y'all.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be good. Don't you worry. I have some great footage. And in the meantime, I'm going to put out some shows, have them on back order. You know, we're going to put together some stuff. So it'll be just like I'm there with you every night or every few nights or whatever. And there's plenty of people out there doing stuff. So go check out Nina the Mystic. She's doing a bunch of shows lately. Hump Day Messages, Friday shows, Sin Day Live. Lucky Smith has got his shows going on with his meditation, his affirmations. Check him out. He's usually on in the evening around 6 or 7 o'clock. And Stars of the Morning Light, she's been doing a whole bunch of stuff, and you know, which is amazing. She's been on a lot lately, and so go check all those people out. They're working hard. And Raised by Giants has also some great shows. He's on Odyssey, Spotify, wherever. And remember, go check me out. I am now on Odyssey too. Go subscribe there. I want to get my numbers up at least in case they ever take us down here on YouTube because I said the wrong words and or David pulled the wrong card. You never know. YouTube can say, "What? You're talking about wombats? Oh my gosh, we have to take down that channel."
Wombats.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from.
That's good. Down under.
But anyway, all right, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, David. We'll see you again next week, and same time, same place, same channel. Somehow, some way, we will. Okay, so everybody, be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all. And have a great time. Oh yeah, 4th of July is coming up.
Yes. Be safe.
So have you seen any 4th of July fireworks for sale anywhere?
A couple started, but more like sparklers and stuff.
I have not seen any. There's usually a stand everywhere. Not this year. I wonder if anybody else is having the same problem seeing fireworks stands up. Let me know, because I think that's weird. It's really weird. Anyway, okay, people, be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.
And there we go. Another show. Woohoo!